If you're on the hunt for your next bullet journal setup theme, then I have 12 ideas for you. These ones have been specifically picked because they would be suitable for November, as they're all related to some kind of holiday or day of celebration that happens in November, but you can use them at any point in the year if you want to. It's your journal. You can do what you want. For each theme idea, we have an example of some decoration that you can use and also a color palette. Just like the themes themselves, these are just suggestions though, and you can go with whatever style you want. But if you did want to use the color palettes that I've suggested, then all of the pen numbers are listed in the description box. Those ones are listed from top to bottom and going through in the order that we're drawing out our theme ideas. The first theme idea we have is a road safety theme, which might seem a little bit strange, but I actually think would be kind of a cool idea. This is related to Road Safety Week, which is in November, as celebrated in the United Kingdom. I've included orange in the color palette because I thought it would be kind of cute to have some little road cones in there, but I haven't actually drawn this into our decoration box. I've focused mainly on road signs, and you can find different styles of these just by doing a quick Google search. And the nice part is that the majority of these are fairly easy to draw, because they have to have fairly simplistic designs so that you can tell at a distance what they are. To draw these in, something like a geometric stencil would be really useful, just if you want to keep those shapes looking fairly sharp, but I've just freehanded them in. Origami Day is celebrated on November 11th, and this is another great theme idea. I of course had to draw in a paper crane for this because I feel like it's probably the first thing that comes to mind when most people think of origami, but I think that if you wanted to get a little bit more specific with your theme, rather than just having any type of origami, it could be something like origami animals. This is a really nice geometric theme that you can pair with any color palette. I've actually opted not to color mine in and just put in some extra little lines for some shading, but because origami is made with paper, and you can get paper in pretty much any color, it makes this theme really flexible. What you could also do after you do the line work for the origami pieces is instead of using a pen to color it in, use washi tape instead. Especially if you're using a washi tape that's kind of see-through, so you can still see the line work underneath, you can then just cut the washi tape to the lines using something like a craft knife or scissors, but a craft knife is probably easier. Just make sure you don't apply too much pressure and cut through your notebook. Our next theme idea is a coding or technology theme, as related to National Ladies Learning Coding Day, which is celebrated on November 6th in Canada. Like all of our themes, there are plenty of different ways that you can tackle this one. I've decided to put in some simple line work for the decoration, kind of to mimic the motherboards that you might see in, I don't know, typical technology-esque pictures. Can you tell I don't really know a lot about computers, but hopefully you get what I mean. Another way you could do decoration with a theme like this is something like the kind of matrix background, where you have code pieces looking like they're falling from the top of your journal. Or you can also find cool coding themed backgrounds that you could just print off and then stick into your journal for decoration. November 3rd is Jellyfish Day, and this could make a really fun theme as well, mainly because jellyfish are kind of amorphous, so they're pretty forgiving to draw in, especially if you go with a kind of more cartoony style like we have here. Normally when I'm drawing in doodles to my layouts, I like to use a black pen, but I decided instead to use the bullet end of a Tombow for this one, just to keep it a little bit lighter and matching the pastel color palette. This is another theme idea that is very flexible in terms of your color palette, because you can do your jellyfish with any color palette you want. I've seen some really cool jellyfish themes done on blackout paper, and while I don't really use blackout paper because it is my nemesis, jellyfish is a great theme to be done on blackout. A theme idea that was definitely a contender for my journal is an odd socks theme, and I'd still like to do it at some point, but this one is celebrated on the first day of the third week in November. The general sock outline is very simple to do, and then you can just fill the outline with any pattern you want. Because it's an odd socks theme, none of these socks actually have to match, so you can get super creative with using different colors and different patterns, or you could even use the washi tape trick that we talked about with the origami theme. To keep it a little bit simpler, I've opted for the same style for each of my socks, so just drawing in those kind of curved edges at the toe and the heel, and then a straight edged section where the sock opens. But because socks come in a bunch of different patterns and designs, you can really do whatever you want with it. For our next theme idea, rather than doodling, I'm using some washi stickers from the washi tape shop, and I just felt that if I was going to do a November theme ideas video, I had to include Thanksgiving, even though I don't live in the US and we don't have Thanksgiving in New Zealand. And depending on where you live, you may well have a Thanksgiving that's not in November. But as said, you can use these themes at any time of year. Given the fact that I've never actually celebrated a Thanksgiving, I'm not necessarily too sure what you could do in terms of decoration for this one. So I kept my decoration to pumpkin-related food bits, because even though that's not what Thanksgiving is about, it does seem very much related to the celebration. If Thanksgiving wasn't really your vibe though, then you could go with one of our other theme ideas. For instance, our next one, which I'm putting in as a topographic map theme, but this one's actually related to GIS Day, or Geographic Information Systems. A maps theme in general would make a very cool theme, but the nice part about a topographic map is that it's really just a bunch of line work that doesn't have to make any particular shapes. Anywhere you put the lines very close together means that that section is going to be a very steep incline, and anywhere the lines are a little bit further apart means that it's more of a gentle slope, and you can use colour in the background to indicate different types of land features. I've just done green all over, so this is just like, I don't know, some hills or something like that, but you can also use white to represent mountaintops, blue to represent the ocean, and you can add in other features like waterways if you want to. I always like to have a couple of animal options in these theme idea videos, so our second animal idea is a manatee theme, as related to the fact that November is Manatee Awareness Month. I've gone for a more cutesy, kind of cartoony version of a manatee, and you can find heaps of drawing tutorials online just by Google searching something like simple manatee drawing or manatee drawing tutorial or something like that. But some manatees have been vulnerable to extinction for something like 30 years now, so a great way to celebrate Manatee Awareness Month is by doing a manatee theme in your journal. For our next theme idea, we're using some paper scraps in a paper scrap theme, but this one's actually related to Recycling Week, which happens in Australia in the second week of November every year. I'm taking the opportunity to use some of my paper scraps that I used in my reading journal setup, and obviously depending on what paper scraps you're using, your colour palette is going to vary. What I've also done in sticking in these pieces of paper is embellish them with some line work and a couple of small pieces of washi tape, but this theme idea is great for if you want to get a little bit collagey, you want to keep it fairly abstract, if you don't have time to do a lot of doodle work, and also get rid of some of those paper scraps that you've been holding onto. If you're anything like me, your paper scrap bin is very full. For our next three theme ideas, we're going to be using the Fomemo thermal printer to print off some colouring pages rather than drawing things in myself. This is a great way to add decoration to your journal without actually having to doodle it, especially because our next theme idea is either a Mickey Mouse or a Minnie Mouse theme, or both of them together, because November 18th is Mickey and Minnie's birthdays, which is interesting that they have exactly the same birthday. But anyway, rather than trying to draw these characters in myself, we're just using the Fomemo thermal printer so that I don't have to try and get their proportions exactly right. I find that anytime I try and draw characters that are well known, I want to get the dimensions just spot on, otherwise they end up looking a little bit strange. So the thermal printer just makes this a lot easier. And while I wanted to keep them fairly true to form in this one, you can of course go with a more stylized route, which means that you don't have to be quite as particular when drawing them in. Just the mouse ears silhouette, for instance, is a great way to do a Mickey or a Minnie theme. On November 10th, we have Sesame Street Day, so I wanted to include that one in our theme ideas lineup. And again, I'm using the thermal printer so that I don't have to try and draw our characters in. For a theme like this, you could include a range of the characters from the show, or you might just choose to focus on one or a couple, maybe go with a Bert and Ernie theme, or a theme for Oscar the Grouch, or if you're like really into numbers, maybe you could do the count. The 23rd of November is Fibonacci Day, so not a bad excuse to do a numbers theme. If maths isn't so much your thing, but music is, then National Jukebox Day is the day before Thanksgiving every year, and that could make a great theme as well. Rather than draw in a jukebox, I decided to print one off, and the nice part about the Fomemo thermal printer paper, other than the fact that it's sticker paper and that means I can stick it directly into the journal, is that the surface of it is really good for blending pens, which meant that I could get a pretty good effect on the light up sections of the jukebox and turn them into kind of a gradient. If you don't want to go drawing jukeboxes all over your setup though, you can of course put in things like vinyl records, musical notes, and song lyrics from music that you might play from a jukebox. I'd love to know what theme you're going with for your next journal setup, but if you're still on the hunt for more ideas, we do of course have all of our previous theme idea videos, which can be found in the playlist at the top left. That one's worth checking out, so click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.